Six Flags Discovery Kingdom in Vallejo, California is one of the most unique parks in the Six Flags chain. The park has all the roller coasters you'd expect from a Six Flags park, but it also is a full-fledged zoo, including both sea creatures and land animals. For this reason, Discovery Kingdom should be one of the chain's best parks. It has so much potential. However, this park has a bizarre layout and, more importantly, the worst operations in the chain. Before talking about Six Flags Discovery Kingdom's layout, I think it's important to consider the history of this park. The park originally opened in 1968 in Redwood City, California, roughly 55 miles south of the park's current location, as Marine World. At this point, Marine World was exclusively an aquatic zoo, and not an amusement park in any way. In the mid-1970s, Marine World merged with Africa USA, and rather than coming up with a creative name, the park literally named themselves Marine World Africa USA. Adding land creatures to the park's extensive marine life collection made this park one of the region's best zoos. Flash forward to the mid-1980s, and the value of the Redwood City land was becoming too great for a zoo. As a result, the park moved to the current site in Vallejo, California, and reopened in 1986 as Marine World yet again. For 10 years, Marine World operated exclusively as a zoo. Then in 1996, the park was purchased by Premier Parks, who had the intention of converting the park into a hybrid zoo and a theme park. And in 1998, Marine World became an official Six Flags park named Six Flags Marine World, and it would keep that name for about a decade until the park was rebranded as Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. The new name was intended to reflect that the park was more than just sea animals. The park had a bona fide thrill ride collection and land creatures too. But back to the late 1990s, and Six Flags was on a roller coaster building binge. Marine World was running short on undeveloped land, so they started building rides in the former parking lot. This is why the park's current parking lot is on the opposite side of the lake and is roughly a 20 or 30 minute walk from the main gate. The walk from the parking lot to the main gate is one of the longest of any amusement parks, and it's definitely a nuisance. But I do understand why the park did this so they could expand, and ultimately it was the right choice. And this also explains why the front corners of the park are so dense on roller coasters and lacking in atmosphere. The coasters were literally plopped down on pavement, and the park hasn't bothered to hide it. When you ride Medusa, you can actually see the parking spaces below the track. As you get further back in the park, you have some pockets of attractions, but you're more likely to find various animal exhibits. Not only can you tell from the park's history that they never intended to build amusement rides when Marine World opened, but you can also tell from the park's layout. Discovery Kingdom has one of the more annoying park layouts out there. The zoo section forms a coherent loop. Meanwhile, the aforementioned coaster-dense areas are dead ends, consisting of one long pathway originating from the center of the park. I think the best park layouts allow you to progress from one area to the next rather than forming a dead end, causing you to backtrack. That being said, the real Achilles heel of Discovery Kingdom are the operations. On the plus side, Six Flags Discovery Kingdom is open year-round. The San Francisco climate is quite favorable to year-round operations, despite what California's Great America may want you to believe. In the slower months, Discovery Kingdom is open just on weekends, but they're open daily in the warmer months, just like most parks. But on the downside, you are likely going to find several rides closed on any given visit, and for the ones that are open, you're going to find a glacially slow queue line. I have been to this park 4 separate times, and each time, rides have had delayed openings. My most recent visit earlier this year was the most baffling. I arrived an hour before opening, and all the major rides were testing, so you'd think everything would be ready to go. Yet when the park opened, Flash Vertical Velocity was pretty much the only ride operating. And that's quite ironic because that's arguably the most unreliable ride in the whole park. From experience, there's usually at least one coaster down for the entire day when I visit. And since this park has year-round operations, I understand that will happen. I just wish the park would post a maintenance schedule online just like all the other park chains. This is a flaw shared by all the Six Flags parks in general. And for the rides that do open, their operations can be quite erratic. I already mentioned how unreliable Flash Vertical Velocity is, but rides like Batman the Ride, Joker, and Wonder Woman all seem to have way more downtime relative to their similar rides in both the Six Flags chain and other parks. I really wish Discovery Kingdom would get their act together in the operations area. And you also have to deal with one-train operations. Several of the park's coasters are shuttle coasters, meaning they can only run one train. But it's also quite common to find one-train operations on the park's other coasters that are capable of running multiple trains. I think the only coaster I've ever seen here run two trains, outside of the free spin, is Medusa. But even that coaster fell victim to the one-train ops on my most recent visit. Meanwhile, I have never seen Kong or Joker run multiple trains. Combine the one-train ops with brutally slow dispatches, and you will have some lengthy waits if you visit on a busier day. And one minor hiccup I want to mention if you're a Diamond Elite member is that they often restrict you from using your Skip the Line pass on coasters running just one train. So it becomes a laughable exercise to figure out which rides are even eligible for your Skip the Line pass. The one positive I do need to say about the staff though is that they are quite friendly. The staff at Joker in particular always seems to shine. The attendants are usually quite energetic at Joker, and on both my visits, the staff has been kind enough to give double rides to finish off the night. For that reason, I strongly recommend that you make Joker your final ride at Discovery Kingdom and try to time it for that last train. And that's especially true anyway because Joker is the park's signature coaster, and it's not even close in my opinion. The park currently has 10 coasters, and Joker is the park's only coaster really focusing on airtime. And I know a lot of people label it the worst RMC, but I genuinely enjoy Joker, and I rate it more comparably to the mid-tier RMCs. I posted a full review of Joker, but in short, this coaster has the best inversions of any RMC. That stall in particular may be the best inversion on any coaster. Plus, you have some powerful airtime on the first drop and on many of the bunny hills. And if you like inversions, you're definitely in luck at Discovery Kingdom. The star in that department is Medusa, one of the best B&M floorless coasters in the world. This coaster has a strong drop and 7 forceful inversions while also providing a glass smooth ride. You also have 2 compact launch coasters in Superman Ultimate Flight, which was the prototype Skyrocket 2. An enthusiast will be glad to know it still runs with just the lap bar trains and no comfort collars. I know this is a clone, but it is one of the best clones out there because it packs so many thrills into such a small footprint. And this coaster also tends to have the fastest dispatches in the park, which is much appreciated because of how short those trains are. Meanwhile, Flash Vertical Velocity is arguably the most unique Intamin Impulse coaster, but it wasn't intended to be that way. Long story short, Discovery Kingdom has a 150-foot height requirement, and they originally built Vertical Velocity in violation of this. To remedy it, Vertical Velocity's front spike was converted into an inversion that offers some really unique sensations relative to the other Impulse coasters. The park's new for 2019 Batman the Ride is your average SNS free spin, but it definitely fits in well, and it offers a unique ride experience relative to the park's other coasters. Now unfortunately, the remaining 3 adult coasters aren't quite as good. These consist of 2 Vekoma headbangers in Boomerang and Kong. The latter is considered by many, myself included, to be one of the worst SLCs in the world. Kong is one heck of a rough ride. And you also have Skyline's prototype Skywarp in Harley Quinn Crazy Coaster. And this ride is an unmitigated disaster. It rarely operates, and when it does, it's a loud, rattly, redundant, and uncomfortable ride that I never intend to ride again. So if you're keeping score at home, that means 8 of the park's 10 coasters will invert you. The remaining 2 coasters are the park's junior coasters in Roadrunner Express and Cobra. And I really think that's a major flaw with this park. It does not have a family coaster that transitions you from the kiddie coasters to the adult coasters. The park removed their Pandemonium spinning coaster clone for Superman, and they converted Roar into Joker. Fortunately, the park does appear to have the long-awaited family coaster on the way with Sidewinder Safari. The ride was supposed to open in 2020, but it may be delayed until 2021 due to COVID-19. But it will once again give the park that transitional coaster to bridge the gap between the junior ones and the inverting ones. As for the rest of the park's ride lineup, it's okay. Wonder Woman is easily the best non-coaster, as it's one of those gigantic Zamperla frisbees that offers some fantastic hang time. The rest of the flat rides are decent at best. But the one cool thing is that several of them have some animal theming, such as the Hammerhead Shark Inverting Ship and the Thriller Gorilla Himalaya ride. I just wish this park had a drop tower. It's one of the few parks in the Six Flags chain without one, and I get that the park has a 150-foot height limit, but they could still easily fit one of those awesome Larson drop towers or even an S&S double shot. In terms of water rides, the park has a sizable collection, but I do wish they also had a log flume. In terms of what they have, the best one appears to be the Whitewater Safari River Rapids ride. Now unfortunately I have never ridden this. It usually has the longest line in the park, or I visit in the off-season when the ride is closed, hence why I have not ridden it. I have experienced the two other water rides. Penguin is a really rare aqua twist flat that's essentially a super compact splash battle. It's a big hit with kids who have no qualms getting soaked. And Monsoon Falls is your typical shoot the chutes ride, which makes it super refreshing on a hot day. For the kids, Discovery Kingdom is quite strong in this area, as they have 3 separate kiddie areas in Looney Tunes Seaport, Seaside Junction, and Tava's Jungle Land. Moving on to the animal exhibits, I'd say they aren't quite as good as a SeaWorld park or a dedicated zoo, but it's an extremely nice treat to have in a thrill park. While the front of the park is pretty bare and downright ugly in my opinion, the zoo areas are beautiful. There is an abundance of trees, plus a nice lake in the back of the park. I've already shown clips of several of the animal exhibits throughout this review, but I'll highlight some of my favorite animals at the park. I love the penguin exhibit, not just because I love penguins, but because the staff member on duty has always been extremely knowledgeable about the species and excited to share facts about the animal. The shark exhibit stood out for the shark tunnel. Even though the moving walkway was broken, there's just something undeniably cool seeing carnivores swimming around you in 360 degrees. The dolphin exhibit unfortunately looks a bit sad, but the dolphin show is quite enjoyable if you're interested in seeing these smart creatures showcase their athletic prowess. And I also love the lion and tiger exhibits. I usually have notoriously bad luck that these big cats are busy sleeping, but they have been quite active at Discovery Kingdom when I go to see them. So those are my thoughts about Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. In short, this park should be one of the best in the entire Six Flags chain. It has a pretty solid ride lineup and unique animal exhibits, but the operations really hold this park back. If the park can correct this, I think it would shoot up to be one of my favorite parks in the Six Flags chain. But despite its flaws, it's definitely worth checking out. What are your thoughts on Six Flags Discovery Kingdom? Are you a fan of this park? I'd love to hear your comments down below. Subscribe for more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster, and thank you for listening.